All right, so I decided to do my ethics project on the global ethics related to contact tracing, with infectious diseases and, kind of stuff of that nature. Let's see. So, contact tracing is basically the effort to identify individuals known to be infected with said disease, as well as trace anyone they've been in contact with and alert them of the exposure, and related to their disease or whatnot. The person known to be infected becomes kind of like an index case and is asked who they've been in contact with during a specified period of time regarding the disease and how long it's active and contagious and for and whatnot. Um, Anyone that person has interacted with will then be contacted, questioned about their symptoms, and advised to quarantine. If any other or if any of the contacts is infectious, then their contacts are traced, and the whole thing kind of starts over again. So move here. There we go. Why is digital tracing better than traditional tracing? So traditional tracing being that of not really using technology or smartphones or stuff like that and kind of just interviewing people and whatnot. So it's very challenging to use manual contact tracing for highly contagious stuff, especially COVID, because it's necessarily difficult. Right? It's difficult for them to remember, all the information of where they were, how long, who they were with, how close they were to people, stuff like that. It's also really hard to track who who might have been at the supermarket while said person was there. There's thousands of people coming in and out, staying for a different amount of times and stuff like that. There are also a large number of people who, could be considered contacts and, that starts spreading out. It's kind of hard to just interview everyone like that. But this is where technology kind of steps in. Mobile data can be stored for a set amount of time, blah, 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 stuff like that. It can be tracked and quantified a lot easier. So the ethical issues that arise when you start, using technology to kind of streamline this process or whatnot is one being, the right to privacy or kind of, not having the privacy to have harm reduction or whatnot. Respecting the privacy is kind of the core ethical principle and what's actually driving like the whole conversation of whether digital contacts should be used or not and the whole kind of ongoing discussion right now. Tracking someone's personal information is kind of beyond what most people are kind of used to. And I would say 90% of people were probably not too keen on having people track their every movement and whatnot. People are also concerned about these data points and information like that being given or stolen by the wrong people. Another issue would be respecting anonymity. This relates to how kind of we consider the role of consent in the use of digital tools for public health. The most useful information would likely come from requiring each person who owns a smartphone or something like that, and for that information to be shared without their consent, which obviously kind of arises some questions on whether that should be allowed or not. And without a government pretty much stating that you have to do this, you'd pretty much have an option of people going, yes, you download the app and basically disabling it and saying like, no, I don't want to use it, or having people download the app or whatever, whatever the premise is, and being like, yeah, you take my information or whatever. Continuing on that, kind of connects to the last one. The last ethical issue I kind of found was like equity. So if digital contact tracing provides a benefit, and monetarily or however, how do we also protect the people without smartphones or don't have access, if they're whatever, as well as our participants are aware that companies are using their information for fiscal gain without necessarily telling them and or giving them any of it, kind of thing. Also, is how is the benefits of contact tracing distributed amongst the people? Is there any regulations as to who's getting it, how accessible it is, how hard it is to obtain, stuff like that. So I'd say it's definitely a big issue regarding that, is because with technology it's so easy to transmit data and everything like that, and especially very incognito. So that's definitely an issue in the sense of are people making money off of our own personal information. So furthermore, kind of connecting these to, what we've been learning, I would say that, the right to privacy and, the harm reduction thing, as well as the representing autonomy, would be really, really well compared to Kant's ethical theory of deontology, which is basically a theory that states, actions are good or bad according to a clear set of rules, whatever those rules delegate, therefore it is good or bad. Um, I think it would be interesting to hear his viewpoint. This is kind of like my viewpoints here of what I think he'd say um, regarding this, or said ethical problems. I think he would have kind of been in the middle, because he does state as humans we shouldn't be used as a resource, or like kind of objectified into, for further gain or whatever as humans. Um, but also at the same time he states, that we should only do things for a good cause. So you kind of have that argument of like, well, yes, your rights of privacy is being infringed on and whatnot, but at the same time, it could be helping, stop the spread of said disease, or, whatever. Um, so it'd be kind of interesting to see kind of like which one would win out of the way he, kind of preached things. Um, I think this is also be kind of considered an imperfect duty, because one side, humans are being used for a resource and not, not what you should be, kind of thing. And but at the same time, morally, um, it could be possible for a good cause. So like morally, you should do that for a good cause, kind of thing. So it kind of outweighs itself in a sense. Um, Continuing that, the comparison with equity in the last ethical issue, with cultural and moral relativism. So cultural relativism derives from the empirical fact that some practices are acceptable in certain societies but not in others. Whereas, for reference, not eating pork and eating pork, stuff like that. Moral relativism is, on the other hand, is the normative view that whether an action is permissible or obligatory ought to rest with the members of the society in which the action is to be performed. So kind of leave it up to them, kind of sense. So, for example, if your religion or moral belief stated that using electricity or technology is not allowed or frowned upon, or whatever, but technological tracking could save your entire community, and that doesn't believe in using that, what would you do, kind of thing. So like, would you adapt the situation and stick to the culture, or morally be like, well, this would help all the members of society, this is for a good cause, we can put that aside as a society and use it because of given circumstances, or whatever how severe the situation is. So, are there certain moral principles that all societies need to embrace, or would it be more of an adaptation out of respect for those certain societies? So it's kind of like, should we do this, and should everyone just kind of accept it, or should we work around everyone and kind of respect everyone? um but yeah, I think that's really all I have right now. So hope you guys appreciated my little video. So other than that, that's all I got. I'll link the sources in the description as well, or in the chat if y'all want to check them out, but appreciate it.